Welcome to the Living with Long COVID exhibition at the Museum of Vancouver. This exhibition brings you into the realities of people with long COVID who have kindly shared over 200 photos of what day-to-day life looks like for them. Over 46 people with long COVID across Canada submitted these photos and also provided some context to what their experiences are like throughout their journey.
So what is long COVID? Long COVID is a chronic condition following any COVID-19 infection that persists for at least 3 months. It can be relapsing or remitting and can affect one or more organ systems. It's really estimated to affect over 1 in 9 Canadians. This number is an underestimate, as many people don't recognize that they have long COVID, and many medical professionals also not good at identifying it. There's also an estimate from 2023 that over 400 million people worldwide have already experienced this. Long COVID can present over 200 symptoms that fluctuate. It can present really differently. So right now, maybe I'm more with a mild to moderate case, but it can also present very severely, with many being housebound or bedbound. Currently, there are no approved treatments or cures. Long COVID is interconnected with many other chronic conditions that are also common from post-viral or bacterial illnesses or mold exposure. We're collecting these conditions like trading cards that we never wanted, and one of them is ME/CFS, otherwise known as myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome. Over half of people with long COVID have ME, and the hallmark trait of ME is PEM, P-E-M, which is post-exertional malaise. PEM occurs as a flare-up of symptoms which can render us bedbound or housebound for days to weeks, sometimes even months. It's a flare-up of all of our symptoms that we experience, and fatigue is a huge one of them. So you need to be in a low sensory state to recover from PEM. But what causes PEM? Well, anything like me having this conversation with you, to socializing, doing groceries, a shower, standing in line, screen time, those are everyday tasks. And how can we work then if we're constantly dealing with PEM? Well, that's one of the big issues of ME and long COVID. And these conditions are vastly understudied. Number one is also POTS, which is a form of dysautonomia. POTS stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's that my heart rate is really high when I'm in an orthostatic state. It's my body or autonomic system is not able to tolerate it. There's also MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome. Importantly, these conditions have ripple effects on society. So while we're concentrating on the individual, new disability, dealing with all these symptoms to manage, feeling isolated from others and disconnected, others not understanding, we ripple into the social community, trying to form new relationships and friendships with those that do understand us when many friends and family do not. Impacts to family and friends becoming caregivers for us. And then to the healthcare system, where we're seeking care, long COVID clinics being shut down across the country, virtual services increasingly becoming more common, but also increased distrust of the medical system that doesn't know how to help us or is unfortunately often against us, but many barriers to accessing care as well. And then with jobs and education, many of us have had to leave the workforce because we're unable to work. Over 100,000 have been unable to return to work or school, as found by Statistics Canada in 2023. And then, of course, ripples to the whole society, economy, yes, but also the healthcare system and the global economic burden as well, and all the existing health inequities that are being exacerbated by COVID and long COVID.
In recent years, there has been greater awareness and more of a call to integrate the arts with public health and research, because what we see is that this is a really powerful tool, not just for raising awareness, but for engaging people in dialogue that can lead to social change.
Since 2023, we've been speaking to people with long COVID about their experiences, as well as their caregivers and folks in the healthcare profession. And what we heard time and time again were the number of challenges that folks face navigating the system, accessing care. And one of the biggest barriers was just a lack of awareness about long COVID. And so we thought, how can we raise awareness? How can we bring more attention to this invisible illness and showcase folks' experiences? And that's living with long COVID.
When we first put out the call for submissions across long COVID social media groups, we received over 240 photos from people with long COVID across Canada. We accepted every single one of those submissions. And with the help of our community advisory group of 3 people with long COVID, we were able to curate these photos into the exhibition that you see here. So when they were going through the photos, they were trying to decide what resonates the most with the long COVID experience and what we want to highlight and print out larger. What are some like really key themes that we're drawing out and shared across all these submissions? And let's go over one of those community advisory group members now. So one of them is Robert DeRosa. We also have Katie McLean and Catherine Baldwin. And when we were reviewing all the photos together, they just found what really struck them is a shared commonality of the days that we all experienced together. Despite all these vast array of photos that were submitted, we were able to find ourselves within them. In Robert's case, he actually submitted a story of like a day in his life where he unfortunately fractured a bone because he was going through a lot of fatigue and dizziness. Also, the comfort of pets was another theme you'll see. So as I said, we accepted every single submission, and a lot of them were on these digital screens here too. Cats, awesome comforting pet. More themes, you'll see a lot of resting in bed, supplements, alternative medications and treatments, also low sensory activities and hobbies if we do have the energy when we're not resting. But what's often unseen is like the pain and emotions of isolation. So the grief, frustration, a lot of selfies conveying that because we want to be seen within this. Respirator wearing, another really important thing, preventing future COVID infections because the more times you're infected, the more likely you are to have long COVID. So preventing infection through respirator wearing, cleaning indoor air, ventilation, measuring the air with a CO2 monitor, all really important things. This, of course, is the poster image that we use for the exhibition, being surrounded and overwhelmed by not only all the information surrounding long COVID, but trying to figure out like what medication or ways of symptom management work best for us. Submission from my friend Brenda, showcasing the Indigenous perspective of having long COVID, also wearing a respirator. And then here we also have my submission with my infamous photo of a heart rate monitor indicating that it was above 120 beats per minute, even though I wasn't doing anything, but just sitting down. I also have a staircase shown here because stairs are our #1 worst enemy other than COVID itself, because the amount of energy and effort it takes for me to ascend something at an incline can be really hard on my breathing and heart. So I wanted that represented, as well as the advocacy. So here's Berlin Virus Club, a grassroots support advocacy group, internationally uniting people with long COVID. I have myself working at my desk there. Now I do long COVID research and plushies because that's a little comfort I find when I'm going through some really hard times with this condition, and myself mask, of course. So here we have the pillowcase wall, continuing the theme of long COVID advocacy. These pillowcases are from Long COVID Awareness Day 2025, which the first time was an event in Vancouver, thanks to the Canadian COVID Society, which held an event in 3 different cities. 200 stories were submitted by people all across Canada with long COVID, and Nicole Rogers, based locally, helped assemble the stories and write them onto the pillowcases. So why pillowcases, you may ask? Well, they display the resting time that we often spend in bed, since we're chronically ill and we can't often go out. It was also inspired by previous NECFS protests who have a bed to convey that. Long COVID Awareness Day is March 15, so hopefully you can spend that time in raising awareness for us on that day.
So we wanted to make sure that people were able to continue the conversation after leaving this exhibition. This was just the start of the dialogue. And so we asked people who have experienced this exhibition, to watch through it, who've taken the time to look at and read the stories of these 46 people with long COVID, to share their thoughts and experiences. So here we've asked, what thought, feeling, or insight will you share from your experience of this exhibition? And so we've had over 100 people who have responded by writing their thoughts. One says, I'm grateful this exhibit exists, so I feel less alone in my diagnosis and chronic illness experience. I am so impressed by the bravery of these people sharing pain. It isn't a small or easy thing. Thank you to everybody. And our hope is that, again, as this conversation continues outside of these walls, that we will collectively reimagine how we can care for one another, how we can move forward with more visibility and solidarity. So we actually started this project not thinking about the scale and being in a museum like the Museum of Vancouver. We had piloted showcasing these photos at a community event that was facilitated by Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Ed Young. And what we realized is that there was such an interest and a hunger from the community to share their stories through photos. And so as we were collecting these photos, we had started to think about where else can they be showcased? Where can we meet people where they're at so we can have more of a dialogue and kind of increase awareness for long COVID? And so as our team did some research, and admittedly I was new to the city and also looking for places to explore the arts and culture scene, I'd come across the museum in Vancouver. And what really struck me was the vision. It was the vision of facilitating and trying to enable more socially connected, resilient, and a more publicly engaged city. And so we thought, this is a place where we can see this project being housed and where the voices of the community would be respected.
Long COVID is a global experience. And so what's next for the Living with Long COVID exhibition? We're going to be looking to mobilize these stories outside of Vancouver, and part of that is bringing this exhibition online. We're also going to be hosting events to further long COVID awareness and education, and hosting dialogues within our own team to map a blueprint for how this exhibition came together so that others can keep these conversations going in their own communities.
I'm so grateful to the long haulers who participated in this project. It required so much labor, physical, emotional, intellectual labor, just to produce these images, write the stories, within actually a short time frame.
We as researchers at the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University, in collaboration with the Museum of Vancouver and the Post-COVID-19 Interdisciplinary Clinical Care Network, have launched a research survey to understand visitors' experiences and perceptions after viewing the Living of Long COVID exhibition. This exhibition is a space to witness and sit with the experiences of people living with long COVID in Canada. The exhibition is on view at the Museum of Vancouver until March 22, 2026, which is also Long COVID Awareness Month. We hope this awareness and visibility will continue beyond this exhibition and ripple across communities in Canada and beyond.